Hello there guys, I'm Unstable Voltage, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the microtransactions in Overwatch, and also talk about the differing opinions of both TotalBiscuit and Jim Sterling. So for those of you who don't know how this began, it started last week when Jim Sterling released his written review of Overwatch, to which he actually says he absolutely loves the game, gave it 9 out of 10, he really does enjoy the game. But Jim absolutely slated the inclusion of a microtransaction system within Overwatch. Now that was followed up a couple of days later by a video, 40-minute video from TotalBiscuit, where TB actually, who also likes Overwatch, discusses why he thinks that the microtransaction system within Overwatch is actually pro-consumer and a good idea. Now this then resulted in a sort of a bit of a flame war almost between some of Jim Sterling's followers and some of TotalBiscuit's followers. And then a couple of days ago, Jim Sterling goes and makes another new video where he again talks about the microtransactions within Overwatch, and this time kind of in part responds to TotalBiscuit's video, but again mentions the fact that Jim is actually getting TotalBiscuit fans going to him and telling him that he's been wrecked, and obviously TB's having the same sort of thing. And this does tend to happen quite a lot when you get two relatively popular personalities who have differing opinions and their fan bases tends to clash. Now, I don't by any means mean that that's all of the fan bases. It is only a select few, I'm sure. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because the thing is, both of them are correct. They both give a very well-reasoned argument as to their point of view. And I actually agree with both of them because there is certainly an amount of crossover involved between their opinions. So I wanted to talk about what I think on the subject and actually point out that while they do technically disagree, they're both correct. So first of all, if you don't know how the loot and the microtransaction system in Overwatch works, let me explain that to you. So we'll go ahead and have a look at the system. So the first thing to have a look at is, if we look in the hero gallery here, you can see there's 21 heroes. This is the current full roster for Overwatch. And you can see some of these characters I have stuff unlocked for. If you look at the number beneath their name, you will see how many unlocks I have unlocked and how many there are in total. So with Bastion, I have 6 out of 54. With D.Va, I have 6 out of 54. With Genji, I have 5 out of 54. Hanzo, 4 out of 54, etc. The only character that has more than 54 items at the moment is Widowmaker, who has 55. That's because she has an exclusive skin, which was a pre-order bonus. So anyone that pre-ordered the game got that pre-order skin. So when you actually want to work out the number of unlocks in this game, you've got to times 21 characters by 54 unlocks. You end up with quite a few. So what are these unlocks and how do you get them? Well, let's just look at Bastion as an example. These are all of the unlocks that you have within a character. For most of them, it's pretty much the same. You have 10 skins. You have 3 different emotes, which is basically an in-game animation that you can activate from the context menu. You have 3 different victory poses, which can be used at the end of the game when you win a match. That's the pose that you will be in. You also have 10 different voice lines, which are sort of audio cues that you can fire off from the in-game context wheel. You also have 3 different highlight intros, which is what is used when you get a play of the game. So again, in-game animations. And you also have these sprays, which are basically cosmetic sprays that you can use to tag walls and surfaces in-game, a little bit like you used to be able to do in Half-Life multiplayer. So that is basically the loot system. Now, every single one of these unlocks is cosmetic. You've got skins, you've got animations, more animations, audio, cosmetic sprays, and more animations. So all of these things are cosmetic. They don't give you any sort of advantage in the game. There's no power advantage or anything like that. It's also worth mentioning that every single one of these items can be unlocked through gameplay for free, with the exceptions of the pre-order skin for Widowmaker, which is this one, the Noir skin, and there are also 5 other skins for various other characters which were if you bought the Origins edition, which is basically the deluxe editions of the game. So Tracer, for example, doesn't actually have 10 unlockable skins. She has 9, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I should actually have the full 10. So there is actually an 11th one that isn't counted there. But this skin, again, as it says, unlocked with the purchase of the Origins Edition. And I think there's 4 or 5 skins in total for the Origins Edition. They're the only ones that you cannot unlock without buying that version of the game. So how do you get these unlocks? How do you actually unlock them? Well, the game has a leveling system. If we go and have a look here in my career profile, you can see that I'm currently level 34, and you can see my current progress towards the next level. Now, progress is based on an XP system. You gain experience when you win a match and for doing various things within the match, and the leveling system is a little bit like you will find in MMORPGs. At the earlier levels, you don't need an awful lot of XP to level up, but as the levels increase, so does the amount of XP required to reach the next one. Up until you get to, I think it's level 22. I think it goes up by about 1,000 XP at a time until you get to level 22, because it seems to be capped at 22,000 XP every single level. There is no level cap in this game either, so you can keep on leveling up. Now, every time you level up, you get a loot box. Let's go and have a look in here, because I've got some. So this is a loot box, and every single time you level up, you get a loot box. So let's go ahead and open one of these loot boxes. And within it, I will get 4 items. You always get 4 items. Now, this is a classic example of what we're going to be talking about in a moment, is out of these 4 items, I have a voice line for Soldier. I have a voice line for Torbjorn. I have a voice line for Roadhog. And I have a victory pose for 1 character. So, out of 1 loot box, 3 voice lines and 1 victory pose. No skins, no sort of ending animations, no emotes, just a victory pose and 3 voice lines. Let's go ahead and have a look at 1 more loot box, shall we? Again, we've got 1 blue, which is a rare item. So, again, we've got a spray here for Winston. We have a voice line for Diva. We have a victory pose again for Genji. And we have a spray for Mei. Now, you'll actually see this one. It says duplicate plus 5C. So, basically, I've already got this spray. So, what this will do is it will convert it into the in-game currency, which is this number up here in the right-hand corner of the screen, 85. So, I have 85 credits or whatever the in-game currency is. Let's just have a quick look at 1 more, shall we? Did save them up for a reason. So, here we go. And again, on this one, we've got a spray for all heroes. We've got a spray for Tracer. We've got a spray for Widowmaker. And we've got a player icon. Your player icon is basically this thing up here, which is used to show people on your account. Basically, when people add you to the party, you can see their player icon. So out of that one, I've got 3 sprays and a player icon. No skins, no victory poses, no highlight intros, nothing at all. Just 3 sprays and a player icon. So this is basically part of Jim Sterling's argument. But before we go into Jim Sterling's argument, let me go and talk a little about TotalBiscuit's argument first. So TotalBiscuit says that he's absolutely fine with these microtransactions being in the game. Now, the microtransactions are basically this. You can purchase these loot boxes. Obviously, the price on the screen is in pounds because I'm in the UK, but I don't know what the dollar conversion is. I'm assuming it's $1.99 for 2 boxes and sort of so on. But you can buy the loot boxes from 2, 5, 11, 24 up to 50 for $31.99, which is probably about $35. That is something like that. Now, TotalBiscuit's argument is it's absolutely fine to have these microtransactions in there, and his reason for that is everything in the game is cosmetic. It doesn't matter if a player within the game has every single skin, every single animation, every single voice line. It doesn't give them any advantage over someone else who has nothing. And with the exception of those few skins that are exclusive to the Origins Edition, even somebody who is not willing to pay for the loot boxes will still eventually be able to open every single item within the game, again apart from those few skins. So it's totally up to the consumer whether or not they want to spend money to get those loot boxes. And as TotalBiscuit says, for some people, they have more spare money than they have spare time. And it'll take a long time to actually unlock all of these items. Now, I have to agree with him there. I don't have a problem with these microtransactions being in the game. Nobody is forcing anybody to spend money here. Obviously, you have to buy the game. It's a premium game. But nobody is forcing anybody to actually spend money and buy loot boxes. It is a totally personal preference, optional thing. And I don't have a problem with somebody else being able to buy these loot boxes, because it doesn't matter how much money they spend on loot boxes, they're not going to get anything in them that makes them better at the game or gives them an advantage over me. So TotalBiscuit is perfectly valid in what he's saying. The microtransactions don't really pose a problem. They don't affect the game in any way. They don't harm the game. Now, on the opposite side of the fence, you've got Jim Sterling, who absolutely hates the microtransaction. Now, he's got two reasons for it mainly. His first reason is that it's already a premium game. You're paying a full price tag to play this game, and then they're still trying to double dip by then further charging people to unlock these loot boxes. And he does have a point, but this is something that we've seen in many games before, particularly from Blizzard. World of Warcraft is a classic example. I mean, with World of Warcraft, they're practically triple dipping. You actually pay your price for the boxed copy or the digital copy of the game, so you've got an initial price tag on the game itself, plus all of the expansions. Then you have to pay a monthly fee to play the game, and on top of that, you can buy mounts, you can buy pets, you can pay to change the name of your character, you can pay to change the race of your character, you can pay to switch servers. There are many, many ways that you can pay to get things in-game that don't necessarily give you any sort of advantage. They're just cosmetic or something to do with moving around between servers and stuff like that. So it's certainly not a new thing in Blizzard games. But the biggest point that Jim Sterling makes, which is the one that I do happen to agree with, is that maybe Blizzard have deliberately made the system so that it takes longer to get unlocks. And I actually agree with him, because think of the random nature of the way things work with these loot boxes. When you open a loot box, you get 4 items, and those 4 items are random. So let's say that I wanted to get a very specific item for a very specific character. Let's say my favourite character in the whole game is Junkrat. And let's say I really, really want to get this Jester skin for Junkrat. Now, this is one of the legendary skins. It can appear in a loot box, but it's very, very unlikely to happen. It'll have a very, very low drop rate. Now, it also has a cost of 1,000 credits, which is this in-game currency up here. So I could buy it if I had enough in-game currency, and currently I am absolutely nowhere near. So how can I get this skin if I really, really want it? Well, I can either keep opening loot boxes over and over and over and over again, and I might eventually get lucky and get the skin that I want, or I can save up enough currency. Now, there's only 2 ways that you can currently get the currency in the game. First of all, if you get a duplicate item in a loot box, so you unlock an item that you've already got, you will get some currency. And the second option is sometimes you actually get currency as one of the 4 items within the loot box itself. But again, you tend to get very little. Most of the time it only goes up to, well, I think the ones I've seen most commonly are about between 15 and 50. So it still takes an awfully long time to save up enough to get the unlock you want. And this is Jim Sterling's main problem with the game, is that it becomes a bit of a gambling system. It's not like you can just spend money to buy the item you want. You're basically buying scratch cards. It's a lucky dip. You're spending money to buy a loot box in the hope that you might get an item in there that you actually want. Now, the problem is the number of items that you can get is huge, because there are all of these sprays and player icons, which most people don't value very highly. Most people want the skins, they want the animations, they want the voice lines. They don't want the sprays because they've got hundreds of them. And certainly, as you've seen from a few of the ones that we opened, you tend to get sprays and voice lines more than anything else in the game. And this is Jim Sterling's problem. You are essentially gambling. You can't just go... He wouldn't have a problem if you could just go into the hero gallery, go into a character, go into the skins and say, right, I want to buy this, $2, there we go, purchased. You can't do that. You cannot just buy what you want. You've got to basically gamble on these loot boxes. And the second problem that he has within that is that Blizzard have deliberately, or it's assumed that they have deliberately, slowed down the pace of actually gaining experience and slow down the ability to gain the items you want. Because the thing is, it's not like as you open these loot boxes you can cross off items you already have and say, well, at least that's one less item for me to randomly draw, and makes it more likely that I will randomly draw the item that I want, because you can draw an item that you've already got. And you'll be given some currency for it, but it's a pathetically small amount of currency and not worth the item that you've just got the duplicate on. So as a result, you could have every single item in the game with the exception of the one skin that you want. And every single loot box you open will probably just contain items that you already have, and you will get that converted into currency, but at such a pathetic rate it'll still take a long time for you to get the item that you want. So in essence, I do actually agree with what TotalBiscuit is saying, because it is pro-consumer. It doesn't affect the gameplay. If somebody wants to spend their money to get the unlocks more quickly, they can do. It's absolutely fine, it's not hurting anybody, and it's a bit more money for Blizzard. But I also agree with Jim Sterling. A lot of people do want the cosmetic items. You've already paid full price for the game, and then Blizzard deliberately make it difficult to unlock the items that you want, and it's a test of patience. They're trying to force people to get so bored and fed up with waiting to get the loot box with the item they want that they go ahead and buy some loot boxes. And even when you buy the loot boxes, it's still a gamble. You're not guaranteed to get the item that you want. Now, I can see this from both of their points of view, and they are both entirely 100% correct. And I think TotalBiscuit even mentions that in his video, that he agrees that maybe the randomness of the loot box should go away. But that's just the way that Blizzard have decided to do things, and I very much doubt any amount of complaining and sort of public shaming of Blizzard will ever make them change that system. I guess it's something that they've already spent a lot of time and money and probably done a lot of research in. And personally, I don't mind the grind. This is something that a lot of people have apparently asked for. If you give somebody a game such as Overwatch, or Call of Duty or Battlefield or anything like that, if you give somebody a game with no progression system and no items to unlock, it kind of doesn't really feel like it has much of a goal. A lot of people have the mindset of, well, what's the point in playing? So the idea of having a progression system is it gives people a goal, it gives people targets. People want to keep playing because there are things there that they can unlock. Even if those things are cosmetic or mostly useless, it's still an incentive. It's a carrot on a stick to keep people playing. And I'm sure Blizzard have put a lot of time, effort, thought and research into it, so it's not going to change at any time soon. But I honestly cannot understand why both Jim Sterling and TotalBiscuit's fanbase are sort of throwing dirt at each other, because fair enough they don't agree, but they put forward a very compelling argument, both of them do, but they are both correct, so it doesn't matter that they don't see eye to eye on all of the same issues about the microtransaction system. They both do make very, very valid points. So I'd just like to say further, once again, I completely agree with TotalBiscuit. It doesn't affect me or anybody else that the microtransaction system is in the game, because you can't buy any items that actually make you better or give you an advantage. And I also agree with Jim Sterling that the randomness of the loot box and the way that it's designed to be padded with lots of useless and less desirable items to try and test people's patience to make them go and buy loot boxes is a little bit scummy, and it would be nice if you could just buy the items you want directly. But hey, this is the video gaming industry, and all of these developers and publishers, they're there to make money, and they're going to use every single avenue available to them to try and maximize the amount of profits they can make. So just my opinions on the Overwatch microtransaction system and my thoughts about both TotalBiscuit and Jim Sterling's opinions on the matter. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye for now.